Hello and welcome back to another high-energy edition of the Deep Dive. I am absolutely pumped for this session.
Me too. We got a big one today.
We really do. We're doing something very special, specifically tailored for our incredible Simplified UPSC by PPP community. Now, if you've been following this series, you know the drill. We don't just skim the surface.
No, we don't. We dive all the way to the bottom to find the pearls.
Exactly. We take the source material, strip away some of the academic noise, and get right to the core of what you need to know. For your exams, yes, but also just for understanding how this nation functions.
It's foundational stuff.
It is. But before we jump into today's massive topic, and trust me, it is a beast. I have a small but, incredibly important request. If you're getting value from these deep dives, if they're helping you connect the dots, please just take a second and hit that subscribe button right now. It really supports our mission to keep bringing you this super useful content.
And we do have to mention this because it is just vital. If you're capable, and only if you're financially capable, please consider supporting us on Patreon.
Yeah.
It really is what keeps the lights on here. It pays for the research time, the equipment, and allows us to go this deep.
It truly does. And on that note, a huge warm shout out to all of our current supporters and patrons. You guys help us so much in creating this content.
We literally couldn't do it without you.
We couldn't. Also, quick reminder to like the video and share a valuable comment below. That engagement, it tells the algorithm that this stuff matters, so it really helps us out there.
And for those of you looking for the materials we're about to discuss, there is some good news.
Yes. Free notes with practice PYQs, that's previous year questions, are available right now on our public Telegram channel. Go grab them.
And for the really serious aspirants who want to save time and streamline their prep,
we've got the private Telegram library. You get access to all videos in this series at once, plus all the organized premium notes. And we're talking detailed notes, extra PYQs, and even model mains answers that can act as a template for your writing.
Which is so useful.
It is. Just DM us on the public Telegram channel to join that private library.
Okay.
All right, housekeeping out of the way, let's get into it.
Let's do it. Today we are cracking open NCERT Class 9 Economics, Chapter 4. The title is Food Security in India.
Right.
Now, I can hear some of you maybe glossing over this. You're thinking, I had a good breakfast, the grocery store shelves are full, what's the big issue? But for UPSC, especially General Studies Paper 3 Economy, Social Justice, this is a pillar.
Yeah.
This is foundational stuff.
It is, and I think it's so important to set the stage here. When we talk about food security in the context of a nation like India, we aren't just talking about, eating. We aren't just talking about satisfying hunger pangs.
We're talking about national stability. We're talking about human capital. The idea that a malnourished population cannot possibly build a robust economy.
That's a huge point.
And fundamentally, we're talking about the moral obligation of the state to its citizens. It's that basic.
That is a heavy start, but a very accurate one. We had a lot of sources to get through today, including some really interesting PYQ documents that, link this history to the actual exam questions you'll face. So let's dive in. Segment 1, defining the core concepts.
Let's go.
What actually is food security beyond just, having dinner tonight?
Right, because it's a term we hear constantly in the news everywhere. But in economics, it has a very rigid technical definition. It's not just getting 2 square meals.
Okay. So help us unpack that technical definition. I'm seeing 3 big words popping up in the notes: availability, accessibility, and affordability. The 3 A's.
The 3 A's, exactly. And we have to break them down because if you miss even one, you don't have security. It's like a 3-legged stool. You kick one leg out, the whole thing just falls over.
Okay, good analogy. Let's start with the first one, availability. This sounds straightforward. Is the food actually there?
Precisely. It's the most basic one. This is the physical presence of food. It refers to food production within the country.
Okay, so what we grow ourselves.
What we grow, plus whatever food imports we've brought in, plus, and this is absolutely crucial for India, the stock stored in government granaries from previous years.
The buffer stock.
The buffer stock. It's essentially a simple inventory check. Is the food, in a strict sense, here within our borders?
Got it. So that's step 1. The food exists, but just because it's sitting in a massive warehouse in Punjab doesn't mean a family in a remote tribal village in Odisha can eat it.
And that leads us straight to the second dimension, accessibility.
Okay.
This implies that food is within reach of every single person. It's about distribution. It's about logistics. Are there physical barriers? Is the road washed out? Is the supply chain broken? Can the food physically get from the granary to the mouth?
So availability is it there? And accessibility is, can I physically get to it?
Correct. And then the third one, which I feel is where the real battle is fought for most people in a developing economy.
Let me guess.
Money. Money. Affordability. This is the economic key. Affordability implies that an individual has enough money to buy sufficient, safe, and nutritious food to meet their dietary needs.
Right.
You could have a warehouse full of grain right next door. That's availability. And the road to it can be paved and open. That's accessibility. But if your pocket is empty, you are still food insecure.
That is such a crucial distinction, and the text emphasizes nutritious food, doesn't it? It's not just about filling your stomach with, say, cheap starch.
No, it's about meeting your full dietary needs for an active, healthy life. So for your exam answers, you have to remember, food security is only ensured when all three of these conditions are met simultaneously.
Right. One without the others is useless. Now let's talk about who is at risk. We tend to think of food insecurity as a kind of static state. You're either poor and hungry, or you're not. But the source material highlights something interesting, that even people above the poverty line can suddenly become food insecure.
Yes, this is the vulnerability factor. Food security isn't static, it's fluid. People move in and out of it all the time, depending on their circumstances.
And what drives that movement? What pushes someone over the edge?
Usually it's calamities, natural disasters. The source lists them out. Earthquakes, droughts, floods, tsunamis. Let's trace the mechanism of a drought, for example, because historically that has been India's biggest enemy.
Okay, walk us through it. So the monsoon fails.
The rain fails.
Yeah.
Simple as that. Consequently, the total production of food grains decreases. That is a direct hit on Dimension 1.
Availability. There's just less food.
Less food. Now, basic economics 101 kicks in. Because there is a shortage, supply goes down. Demand remains the same. What happens to the price?
Prices go up, way up.
They skyrocket. Now, look at Dimension 3, affordability. People who could afford food at normal prices suddenly can't. Their income hasn't changed, but the cost of survival has just doubled or tripled.
And if this happens over a large area or for a long period of time,
It leads to starvation.
but the text gets pretty dark here. It mentions that if starvation becomes widespread, it takes on a new, more terrifying form.
Yes, it becomes a famine. Famine is a very specific thing. It's characterized by widespread death due to starvation and epidemics.
Epidemics. Why epidemics?
Because people are forced to drink contaminated water or eat decaying food. Their bodies are weakened from hunger, so their immunity is gone. It's a devastating combination.
And India has seen famine. I mean, we have the scars to prove it. This leads us right into our second segment, historical context. We cannot talk about food security in India without talking about the year 1943.
The Bengal famine.
Yeah.
It is the defining tragedy that shaped all of modern India's food policy. The numbers are they're staggering. 30 lakh people.
30 lakh. That's 3 million people who died in the province of Bengal.
It's hard to even visualize that number.
It is. The source has this haunting image of a family leaving their village in Chittagong and another of starvation victims at a relief center in 1945. It's just brutal. But let's analyze the victim profile. Who are these 3 million people?
And this is a very, very important point for understanding food security dynamics. It wasn't a random sample of the population.
No.
The wealthy didn't die. The landlords didn't die. The people who died were the agricultural laborers, the fishermen, the transport workers, and the casual laborers.
People with no assets, no safety net.
Exactly. People who relied on a daily wage to buy food.
Now, there's a common myth about the Bengal famine, and the source explicitly asks us to discuss this, that it happened simply because there was a massive shortage of rice, that the rice just wasn't there.
That is the common perception, but it's partially incorrect. While there was a shortfall in production, yes, it wasn't complete disappearance of food.
So what was the real problem?
The source points out that the massive issue was the price increase. Rice was available in the markets, but the price shot up so dramatically that those casual laborers and fishermen people whose wages didn't rise with that inflation could simply no longer purchase it.
Wow. So it was a failure of affordability, not just availability.
Precisely. And this connects us directly to one of the most important intellectual figures in this entire field, Nobel laureate Amartya Sen.
Yes. The source mentions him specifically. He really added a new dimension to how we think about this, didn't he?
He changed everything. Before Sen, back in the 70s, the UN and most governments defined food security mostly as availability. Just having enough supply in the silos.
Just having the grain.
Just having the grain. Sen introduced the concept of entitlements.
Entitlements. That sounds kind of legal. Unpack that for us.
An entitlement is basically what you can legally get or command in a society. It's a combination of what you can produce yourself, like a farmer growing his own rice, and what you can exchange in the market, like a laborer using their wages to buy rice.
Okay, so it's about your power in the economy.
Exactly. Some argue that people starve, not necessarily because there is no food, but because their entitlements have collapsed. They've lost the economic power to command food in the market. Their wages become worthless.
That is such a powerful shift in perspective. It moves the blame from nature or bad weather to economics and bad policy.
It does, and you can see this shift reflected in the 1995 World Food Summit Declaration. They updated the global understanding of food security to emphasize physical and economic access for an active, healthy life.
The economic part being key.
It's everything. It's not just about keeping people alive. It's about health and capability and being a productive member of society.
Okay, let's bring this down to the ground level in modern India. Segment 3. Who is food insecure in India today? We talked about the victims in 1943, but who are the victims now?
The source gives us a very specific demographic breakdown. In rural areas, the worst affected are the landless people, or those with very, very little land to depend on.
And traditional artisans, right? The source mentions providers of traditional services, petty self-employed workers, and destitutes, which includes beggars.
Yes. And in urban areas, the insecurity shifts to the casual labor market. People in ill-paid occupations.
So you're talking about the construction worker, the rickshaw puller.
The headload worker, the street vendor, these are people whose income is daily, it's erratic, and it's very low.
The source actually has a story about a rickshaw puller named Ramu to illustrate this, showing just how precarious his life is. But there's also a social composition to this. It's not just economic, it's caste-based.
Unfortunately, yes. That's a huge factor. The source highlights that SEs, scheduled castes, STs, scheduled tribes, and certain sections of OBCs, other backward classes who have a poor land base or low productivity, are disproportionately food insecure.
And we can't forget the gender and age aspect. This is really shocking. The National Health and Family Survey from 1998-99 estimated that 11 crore women and children were malnutritioned.
11 crore. It's a crisis within a crisis. Pregnant and nursing mothers and children under the age of 5.
And why them specifically?
Well, if a mother is malnourished, the unborn baby is at risk. It creates this horrible generational cycle of poverty and poor health. You are essentially stunting the future human capital of the nation before it is even born.
That's a chilling thought. Geographically, are we seeing this evenly across India, or are there hotspots?
Not at all. They're very distinct food insecure states. The source lists them clearly. Uttar Pradesh, especially the eastern and southeastern parts, Bihar, Jharkhand, Odisha, West Bengal, Chhattisgarh, and parts of Madhya Pradesh and Maharashtra.
So it's the heartland, really, the densely populated central and eastern belts.
For the most part, yes.
Now, the text makes a distinction between two types of hunger, chronic and seasonal. I found this really interesting because we usually just think of hunger as a single thing. What's the difference?
It's a crucial difference. Chronic hunger is a consequence of a diet that is persistently inadequate. You literally never have enough money to buy enough food for survival.
So it's a constant state of deficiency.
Yes. Your body is always running on empty. Seasonal hunger, on the other hand, is directly linked to the cycles of growing and harvesting food.
Ah, okay. So like in rural areas, there's a busy season for sowing and harvesting, but then there are months where there's no work.
Exactly. Agricultural labor is highly seasonal. There are months where there's just no work in the fields. And if you don't work, you don't eat. It's that simple.
And what about in cities?
In urban areas, you see it with casual labor. Think of construction workers. During the rainy season, construction activity often slows down or stops completely. That leads to seasonal hunger for them.
And what's the trend on this? Are we getting better or worse?
The trend is actually positive here, which is good news. India has significantly reduced seasonal hunger over the years. But chronic hunger, that persistent poverty-driven hunger, that remains a very stubborn, difficult challenge.
Okay, so we have the problem defined. We have the victims identified. Now let's talk about the solution. Segment 4, the production solution, the big one, the Green Revolution.
This was the turning point. This was everything. After independence, the primary goal of the Indian government was self-sufficiency in food grains. We were tired of relying on foreign aid, specifically the PL 480 wheat from the U.S.
It was seen as a national security vulnerability, right?
Absolutely. A point of leverage for other countries.
Yeah.
So the goal was, we have to feed ourselves.
And the late 1960s was when it really kicked off. the Green Revolution.
Yes. The introduction of high-yielding varieties, or HYV, of seeds. This was combined with chemical fertilizers, pesticides, and very importantly, assured irrigation.
And the focus was on specific crops.
Primarily on wheat and rice. That was the big push.
I love this little detail from the source. In 1968, Prime Minister Indira Gandhi actually released a special postage stamp titled Wheat Revolution.
It shows you how big of a deal this was. It wasn't just some agricultural policy. It was a matter of national pride. National survival, really.
And did it work?
It worked. That's the headline success. Since the advent of the Green Revolution, India has avoided a famine, even during adverse weather conditions. We have not seen a 1943-style event again, despite major droughts.
The numbers are just wild. In 2016-17, total food grain production rose to 275.68 million tons. But was this growth spread evenly across the country?
No, and that's the major critique. The growth was very disproportionate. Punjab and Haryana saw spectacular growth. They became the breadbasket of India.
Right.
Uttar Pradesh recorded huge numbers, 44.01 million tons in 2015-16. Andhra Pradesh also did quite well. But many other states, especially in the east, didn't see the same boom. It created a serious regional disparity in production.
So we have the grain, we have literal mountains of it, but it's concentrated in a few states. Now the question is, how do we get it to the people? This brings us to segment 5, the distribution machinery.
The government set up what the source calls a carefully designed food security system. It really stands on two pillars. If you visualize a building, these are the two columns holding up the entire roof.
2 pillars. Okay, what are they?
Pillar 1 is the buffer stock. Pillar 2 is the public distribution system, or PDS.
Got it. Let's look at pillar 1 first, buffer stock and the FCI.
The FCI is the Food Corporation of India. They are the government's buyers. They go to the states with surplus production like Punjab and Haryana, and they buy wheat and rice directly from the farmers.
And they pay them a specific price, right? This is a key term for the exam.
Yes, the MSP, or minimum support price. This is crucial for the farmers. The government announces the MSP before the sowing season even starts.
Why before? What's the logic there?
It's to give the farmers an incentive. It's a price signal. The government is saying, look, if you grow wheat, we promise to buy it at this specific price, no matter what happens in the open market. It completely removes the market risk for the farmer.
That's a huge safety net. Okay, so the FCI buys the grain at MSP. They store it in massive granaries. That's the buffer stock. So why do we keep the stock?
2 main reasons. First, to distribute food grains in deficit areas, places that don't grow enough food. And second, among the poorer strata of society. And they sell it at a price that is lower than the market price. This is called the issue price.
Okay, so MSP is what the government pays the farmer. Issue price is what the government charges the poor consumer.
And the difference between the two, plus handling and storage costs, is the food subsidy.
Right. Now for pillar 2, the PDS, the public distribution system.
This is the retail end of the operation. This is the network of what we call ration shops, or more formally, fair price shops.
The source says there are about 5.5 lakh of these shops nationwide. That is a massive, massive network.
It is likely the largest distribution network of its kind anywhere in the world. It's a huge undertaking.
And how does it work?
Any family with a ration card can go to these shops and buy stipulated amounts, say 35 kilograms of grain, 5 liters of kerosene, some sugar, at those subsidized rates, the issue price we talked about.
Okay, but this system, it didn't just appear overnight like this. It evolved, right? This brings us to segment 6, the evolution of the PDS. This sounds like a perfect timeline question for prelims.
Oh, absolutely. You can almost trace the changing philosophy of the Indian state by looking at how the PDS changed.
So what was phase 1?
Phase 1 was basically pre-1992. The PDS was general, it was universal, there was no specific target, it was for everybody, rich or poor.
Then came 1992. What changed?
In 1992, we got the RPDS, the revamped PDS. Here, the focus shifted to geography. They targeted 1,700 blocks in remote and backward areas.
So the idea was, let's help the places that are hardest to reach.
Exactly. Hill states, tribal areas, drought-prone regions.
And then the really big game changer came in 1997.
1997 was the TPDS, the targeted PDS. This is where the famous or infamous divide comes in. APL, above poverty line, and BPL, below poverty line.
Ah, so this is where targeting individuals, not just areas, begins.
Yes, and for the first time, we had differential pricing. BPL families paid a much lower price. APL families paid a price closer to the market rate.
And then in the year 2000, we got even more granular with 2 special schemes.
We did. The first was the Antyodaya Anna Yojana, or AAY. This was for the poorest of the poor. They identified the most desperate, most vulnerable families from within the BPL group.
And what did they get? The source notes they provided 35 kilograms of grain at incredibly low rates, wheat at just 2 rupees per kilogram, and rice at 3 rupees per kilogram.
I mean, it is practically free. It eventually expanded to cover 2 crore families.
And the other scheme?
The Annapurna scheme, or APS. This specifically targeted indigent senior citizens, older people with no one to care for them. They were given 10 kilograms of food grains absolutely free of cost.
Okay, let's pause here. I want to interrupt our flow for just a second because we have these PYQ documents, the previous year questions, that give us a clue on how the UPSC actually tests this stuff. This is segment 7, PYQ linkage.
Yes. This is where we connect the theory to the actual exam. It's so important.
I'm looking at one of the source files, 13CSP1.pdf. There's a question here about the Tepaga peasant movement in Bengal.
Ah, yes. Question 20. The demand of the Tepaga movement was the reduction of the landlord's share of the crop from 1/2 to 1/3.
Okay, but why is this relevant to a chapter on food security?
Because historically, food insecurity for the peasant, the actual tiller of the soil, was driven by these exploitative land tenure systems. If you have to give 50% of everything you grow to the landlord, you don't have enough left to feed your own family.
So the struggle for food security is rooted in these historical rights movements.
Absolutely. You can't separate the history of land rights from the history of hunger in India.
Fascinating. Then there's another question, this one about the Forest Rights Act of 2006.
Question 26. Who initiates the process for determining rights under this act? The answer is the Gram Sabha, the village assembly.
Not the district collector or some other official.
No, and that's the trap in the question. The act is designed to empower the local community. And for tribal populations, food security is inextricably linked to forest access. They gather fruits, tubers, medicinal plants, firewood. The forest is their lifeline. The Forest Rights Act is, in a very real way, a food security act for tribals. If you cut off their access to the forest, you are cutting off their food supply.
And one more, a basic economic concept, national income.
Question 99. National income is the money value of all final goods and services produced. We need to understand this because you cannot sustain a massive food subsidy program like the PDS without a robust national income.
You need the tax base to pay for all that cheap rice and wheat.
You need the money. It has to come from somewhere.
And last one, question 92, mentions capital formation.
Which is essential for economic growth. Building the granaries, the roads for distribution, the irrigation canals for the Green Revolution, that is all capital formation. Without it, you might have the policy for availability, but you won't have the accessibility.
It's amazing how these seemingly dry questions actually tell the entire story of the infrastructure needed to keep 1 billion people fed. But, you know, it's not all sunshine and roses. We have the granaries, we have all these schemes, yet we still have high rates of malnutrition.
And that takes us to segment 8, the critical analysis.
The Maine's perspective.
Yes, we need to be critical, and the biggest problem we face is the paradox of plenty.
Overflowing granaries versus widespread starvation. The source mentions FCI go-downs bursting with grain, some of it rotting away, some of it being eaten by rats while people nearby are going hungry.
It's a tragic, tragic irony. The government consistently holds bucket stocks that are way higher than the minimum norms required.
So why do we hold so much? Why not just release it?
It's a combination of things. Political risk aversion, no government wants to be caught short, and procurement issues. But this leads to incredibly high carrying costs, wastage, and deterioration of grain quality. We're literally paying to store grain that is rotting.
And then there's the outright corruption, the PDS dealers.
The malpractices, as the source calls them. Diverting grain to the open market to sell for a much higher profit.
Right.
Selling poor quality grain at the ration shop to save the good stuff for the black market. Opening the shops at irregular times so people just give up and can't claim their monthly quota.
And that APL-BPL pricing issue we talked about seems to have backfired a bit, hasn't it?
It really has. The price for APL, or above poverty line families, is almost as high as the market price now. So what do?
They stop buying from the ration shop. It's not worth the hassle.
Exactly. Which means the stock piles up even more in the go-downs because there's less offtake or sale. It's a vicious cycle.
And we can't ignore the environmental impact. We said the Green Revolution was great for production, but what did it do to the land, especially in those high-growth states?
It created a perverse incentive. Because the MSP for wheat and rice is guaranteed and high, Farmers in Punjab and Haryana grow only wheat and rice year after year. They over-irrigate, they pump out groundwater,
And the result?
massive depletion of the water table, and severe soil degradation from overuse of fertilizers. We are, in a sense, compromising our future food security to ensure our current production levels.
That is a very scary thought. So, with all these problems in the government system, is the government the only player here? Segment 9. The role of cooperatives and NGOs.
Thankfully, no. Civil society and cooperatives have stepped in, and the source highlights some massive success stories.
Tamil Nadu seems to be the star here.
The absolute star. In Tamil Nadu, around 94% of all fair price shops are run by cooperatives, not by private dealers.
And that makes a difference.
A huge difference. It drastically reduces the black marketing and corruption we just talked about because the shop is accountable to the local community, not a private individual trying to make a profit.
And in Delhi, we have Mother Dairy providing milk and vegetables at controlled rates. And of course, you can't talk cooperatives without mentioning Gujarat.
Amul, the White Revolution. It's a legendary story. It showed that cooperatives could not only provide a steady income to millions of dairy farmers, but also ensure the availability of safe milk products at affordable prices for consumers across the country.
But the one that really stood out to me in the notes, a really innovative model, was from Maharashtra, the Academy of Development Science, or ADS.
This is a crucial case study for your mains answers. ADS facilitated a network of NGOs to set up grain banks in different regions.
A grain bank? How does that work? Is it like a normal bank?
It's exactly like a bank, but for food. Villagers can deposit their surplus grain during the harvest season. Then families in need can borrow grain during the lean season.
When there's no farm work.
Exactly. And they repay the loan later, after the next harvest, often with a small interest of more grain. It's essentially a community-managed buffer stock.
That is brilliant. It completely decentralizes food security.
And it works. The ADS organizes the training and helps with record keeping, and the model is being replicated. It shows that food security doesn't always have to come from a massive centralized warehouse in Delhi. It can come from the village itself.
Okay, so we've covered the history, the system, the flaws, and now the alternatives. Let's try and wrap this all up. Segment 10, conclusion.
To summarize, food security is that triad of availability, accessibility, and affordability. You need all three.
Right. The Green Revolution basically solved the availability problem. We have the grain.
We have the grain. The PDS and the buffer stocks are the government's attempt to solve accessibility and affordability, but they're, plagued by inefficiency, corruption, and targeting errors.
And the big policy shift from a universal PDS to a targeted PDS tried to fix the cost problem, but it created its own set of issues, like excluding the needy.
And now we are seeing that community-based solutions like cooperatives and grain banks can be incredibly effective at plugging the gaps in the official system.
Which leaves us with a final provocative thought.
Yes. Lay it on us.
So we have spent decades focusing on grain, on rice and wheat. But look at the malnutrition stats that persist. Look at the hidden hunger of micronutrient deficiency iron, vitamin A. I want you, the listener, to consider this. We have solved the problem of availability through the Green Revolution, but have we truly solved accessibility and affordability when malnutrition rates remain so stubbornly high? Is the future of food security in grain, or is it in income security?
That's the question.
If people simply had enough money, wouldn't the private market provide the food? Is the PDS just a massive, inefficient Band-Aid for the larger, deeper wound of poverty?
That is something to mull over. Is the answer in the ration shop, or is the answer in the wallet? A very powerful question to end on.
All right, friends, we're at the end of this deep dive.
It was a long journey, but a very necessary one.
Absolutely. Now listen closely. You know the drill. If you haven't yet, please hit that subscribe button. It costs you nothing, and it helps us out massively.
And if you found real value in this deep analysis, if this saved you hours of reading and note-making, please consider supporting us on Patreon. We want to keep Simplified UPSC by PPP running and ad-free, and your support is what makes that possible.
And don't forget to grab the free notes and PYQs on the public Telegram channel. The link is usually in the description, or you can just search for us.
And for the serious aspirants, those of you aiming for the top ranks, join the private library. Get the organized premium notes, the extra PYQs, and those model mains answers that can really make the difference between a pass and a fail.
It can. Just DM us on the public Telegram channel to join. Keep learning, keep questioning, and never stop being curious. We'll see you in the next deep dive.
Goodbye, everyone.